Hello and welcome to this week's live chat. This week we're going to talk about the beginning of life. And I promise you, this was in the curriculum before the Supreme Court's ruling the other day about abortion. This has nothing to do with abortion. We as healthcare professionals who work with medical records, we have nothing to do with that. And I also want to note that we must follow the law and do what is legal and proper, which is accurate documentation. Okay? The things we will go over today are absolute facts related to the human body and are critical to the choice of an appropriate code when this woman comes for care into your facility. Okay? So the beginning of life is when Mr. Sperm fertilizes Miss Oocyte. Remember, oocyte is the medical term for egg. Okay, this typically happens in the lower portion, the distal portion of the fallopian tube. So Mr. Sperm swims all the way from the vagina through the uterus and up into the fallopian tube, and the egg is released from the ovary into the top of the fallopian tube, and they meet in the middle. They have a little picnic, they talk a little, maybe a walk on the beach, and then if they decide, they join together. Now, the oocyte has 23 chromosomes, and each sperm contains 23 chromosomes. And together, they make one complete zygote that then has a complete set of 46 chromosomes. Okay, so when we get to week 2, well, once the egg is fertilized, it will continue down the fallopian tube into the uterus and embed itself into the wall of the uterus. Okay. And about a week later, starting at week 2, the zygote becomes an embryo. This is an embryo from weeks 2 through week 8 after fertilization. External structures, internal organs begin to form. The placenta, the umbilical cord, the amnion, the yolk sac, and the chorion are established during this time. Okay? At week 8, the embryo is about 1 inch in length. And week 8, it becomes a fetus, and all organ systems are in place, ready to grow. Okay. Gestation is the length of time that the fertilized egg is growing inside the uterus. Okay. It is the length of pregnancy, and it's divided up into 3 trimesters. Remember, tri means 3, okay? Beginning on the first day of the woman's last menstrual period before she got pregnant, you know, before the oocyte sperm alliance. Okay. The first trimester, from the first day of the last menstrual period up to 13 weeks, 6 days, which is less than 14 weeks, 0 days, is the first trimester. Second trimester, 14 weeks up through less than 28 weeks. And then 28 weeks begins the third trimester until the fetus is delivered and becomes a baby. Okay. Now, your ICD-10-CM diagnosis codes require the documentation of in which trimester the woman is during this particular encounter. Very important. Okay. All right. Now, there are different time frames. You know, everybody talks about pregnancy being 9 weeks. I mean, 9 months, 9 weeks, 9 months. Dogs, 8 weeks. Elephants, 24 months. They are pregnant. But, you know, it takes time to build up a 200-pound baby to give birth to. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Different time frames. A preterm or premature neonate. A neonate is a baby who has just been born. Okay. Neo meaning new. A neonate with a gestation of 28 completed weeks or more, but less than 37 completed weeks. Okay. And again, there are codes with which you will need to report what week the woman is in, and especially if you are reporting labor and delivery. Okay. Now, remember that one of the purposes for which we code has to do with research and utilization review and things like that. We know, science knows that preterm neonates are going to experience certain health concerns after they're born as they start to grow into adulthood. Okay. So this is an important thing. Why? Because when this is documented, this gives a heads up to the neonatologist or the pediatrician to be alert for. One of the examples is respiratory conditions, because the lungs are the last organ system to develop. So when a baby is born early, their lungs may not be fully developed yet, which is why respiratory syndrome is one of the things that is most common to affect premature babies. Okay. The point is that this is incredibly precise. If the documentation, this documentation will directly affect your ability to code this accurately. If your physician is not being specific enough in their documentation, you need to query them and make certain that this is documented accurately, so the patient's record can be accurate, so the baby's record can be accurate. Remember, as soon as that baby is delivered, the baby gets its own patient record. Okay. A post-term neonate is one who has stayed in the womb over 40 completed weeks, up to 42 completed weeks of gestation. This is a baby who is very comfortable, I should say, excuse me, a fetus who is very comfortable. Why should I go out there? It's cold, it's bright lights, it's so warm and cozy inside. We don't know why, okay? And then prolonged gestation of a neonate, a gestational period that has lasted more than 42 completed weeks. So you have 2 stages of prolonged gestation, and this may need to be reported. This, I mean, if it is, then it needs to be reported by you, the coder. And in that case, the coder must have the documentation. Okay. I don't care if it's your wife or your sister who is the patient, and you know It must be documented. Remember our wise words. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, you can't code it. Okay. All of these situations relate directly to codes that you must report with regard to this pregnancy from the minute of conception all the way through until the neonate, the fetus becomes a neonate, crossing through that tunnel. Okay. All right. Also, what you need to understand is documentation abbreviation. And this is very common by obstetricians, the physician specialists who care for pregnant women. You will see the letter G with a number, and then the letter P with a number, G1, P2, whatever it might be, okay? The G stands for gravida, which is the number of times a woman has been pregnant. P stands for para, which is the number of times a woman has delivered a baby, okay? So if you go with, and you see what I've said a minute ago, G1P2, what would that tell you? This woman was pregnant once, but she gave birth to 2 babies. She had twins, okay? All right. G2P1 will tell you the woman has been pregnant twice, but she only delivered 1 baby. So that indicates that she had a miscarriage, which would probably be documented. Okay. Also, while we're talking about terms that you will see in this record, in medical terminology and medical language, the word abortion, as you will see in your code descriptions, does not necessarily mean a voluntary went to a clinic to terminate the pregnancy. The word abortion, the medical term abortion, means to stop. Okay. So a natural miscarriage is documented as an abortion, but it is not voluntary. Okay, so I just want to caution you, especially in these political times, that you should not jump to conclusions. Okay, very important. Okay, this week you're going to read chapter 11, the beginning of life and childhood. All right, remember, you need complete documentation so that you can report these things. Make sure you look at the guidelines for ICD-10-CM, because especially now with the political situation we have, you must make certain the documentation and therefore the codes are accurate to healthcare standards of care. Your politics do not cross that threshold. Your opinions do not cross that threshold. Okay. Oh, my goodness. All right. Please remember, I am here for you. Whenever you have questions, you're not sure you understand something, or you're like, is it, isn't it? Email me, and we can email back and forth. We can make an appointment to speak on the phone. We can do a one-on-one Zoom, FaceTime, WhatsApp, whatever. And I'm here to support you so you can have a successful career after graduation. Any questions? Okie dokie. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye.